Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things, and welcome to another video. And today I'm going to be doing my March TBR. Now, when I say I'm going to be doing my March TBR, I will be honest, my March TBR is mostly my February TBR with some additions. I have not read very much in February at all. Well, I have finished 7 books in February. One of them was a hangover. Well, 2 of them books I had started in January. One of them was a very thin poetry collection. And I don't feel like I spent very much time reading in February in comparison to how much time I usually do or how much time I would like to. February is obviously a very short month, which I kind of feel like I always forget when I make a February TBR. But also, I just had a very busy month and I feel like all my free time has been writing, not reading time this month. But you know, that's fine, that happens some months. And I thought I would make a TBR video for March anyway, just because why not? And also maybe it will be a bit of a TBR and currently reading video, because I am also in the middle of lots of things as I come to the end of February, and I know that I'm not going to be finishing them before the end of the month. So what I'm currently reading is Les Miserables by Victor Hugo, which I was not intending to finish in February, but I am going to finish in March. I'm listening to this in audiobook. I'm not actually reading this physical edition, but I am more than 3/4 of the way through now, probably. And I just love it. I just love it so much. This is a read for me, and I am just sort of thoroughly enjoying it. I love the characterization. I love the writing. It's such a wonderful, rich, complex story that I just am so invested in. And it's been a sort of good 15-16 years since I last read it, so it's been such joy to reread, listening to this in audiobook, as I said, and I will be finishing it off in March. I'm on schedule for my read along that I'm hosting, and it's just been such a joy to read it with lots of other people as well, and yeah, I love it a lot, so that's great. And then the other audiobook I'm currently listening to at the moment, because I've been alternating between Les Miserables and another book because I want to keep on track with the schedule for the read-along rather than get ahead of the schedule. So the audiobook I'm listening to in between Les Miserables at the moment is another reread, because that is easier if I'm jumping in and out of it. I started to reread Radiance by Catherine M. Valente. So this is a book I read quite a few years ago now and really loved. It's a sort of favourite of mine. But it had been a long time since I read it, and I've been meaning to try the audiobook because I was curious to see how they did the audiobook, because the novel is sort of told in an unusual form, with transcripts and like conversations between people and like film voiceovers. So I thought it would be interesting to see how this was done on audiobook, and I am really enjoying the audiobook so far, though I do feel like it's probably an easier book to read physically. Like, I feel like if I was listening to the audiobook, having not read the book physically first, I would find certain things confusing. Although I think my husband Nick, who has read this also, I think he's only listened to the audiobook and he really loved it too. So maybe that's just me. But anyway, I'm really enjoying this reread so far. Radiance by Catherine M. Valente is a strange speculative novel set in the 1960s, but where space travel was discovered in like the 1910s. And so it's about some filmmakers and a filmmaker who has vanished on Venus. Yes, she's vanished on Venus, and films are filmed on the moon, and it's just sort of glorious and weird, and I love it a lot. So really enjoying rereading that. And I'm also currently reading The Landleaguers by Anthony Trollope, my penultimate Anthony Trollope, which I'm not actually liking that much so far. I'm very sad to say. I feel like this is going to be one of my least favourite Anthony Trollopes. We'll see. There's still a lot of it to go, but so far, not the best. I still have one more to go, John Caldigate, which I've heard really good things about, but I feel like The Landleaguers is probably going to end up quite low down in my Anthony Trollope ranking, but let's see. The other thing I'm currently reading is an ebook of Eden Glassy by Melissa Lukashenko, which is one of the books from the Walter Scott Prize longlist. This book is set between 19th and 21st century Australia, and I'm finding it really interesting so far, liking the writing style, and it's quite an interesting story, but I am really near the beginning. I'm like 5 or 6 chapters in, so I will finish that off in March. But yes, I thought I would mention the books I'm currently reading, as they are, you know, going on to my March TBR as well, as it were. But then, as I said, I didn't get through that much of my February TBR at all, so there are quite a few books I want to carry over into March. Some books I might just read later in the year, we'll see, but As I have said in my previous TBR videos, I've been trying to do like monthly themes each month where I'm like, this month I'm going to focus on reading these kind of books because I thought they might be fun. I don't know how well this is going to go for the whole of 2026, but it did not go well in February, and I read 1 out of the 5 crime books I wanted to read. So I'm going to carry over the other 4 crime books into March, and we'll make March the crime month instead. And if that doesn't work, maybe the idea of monthly themes isn't going to work, but let's see. So the 4 books I'm going to be carrying over into March for that, which I won't speak too much about in this video because I spoke about them in my February TBR video. But we have The Game is Murder by Hazel Ward, Flat 401 by Kingsley Pearson, Sick to Death by Chris Bridges, and You Don't Know Me by Imran Mahmood. I would like to read all of those in March, but I'm probably not going to get through all of them. I would like to read some of them in March. I feel like my February TBR was very ambitious, and I feel like I shouldn't make my March TBR as ridiculously ambitious, but also I would quite like to read all of those books soon and have been meaning to for a while. So I will see how I go. I'm expecting I will have more time to read in March than I did in February. One other book I would like to carry over from my February TBR that I didn't get to in February, but I would really like to read is a Victorian novel, The Blood of the Vampire by Florence Marryat, which is a Victorian vampire novel. This was February's pick for Roy's neglected Victorian Bestsellers read-along that he's currently hosting, and I really want to read this one because I've been meaning to read it for ages. So I think I'm going to try and read The Blood of the Vampire in March, and I just probably won't do March's book for the neglected Victorian Bestsellers read-along. I was thinking, I think I really struggle to take part in like more than 2 like read-alongs at the same time, and I think because I'm already taking part in Jen the Librarian's Thomas Hardy Readalong and also hosting a read-along of Les Miserables, I think that means I am sort of struggling to actually take part in the neglected Victorian Bestsellers project, which I would really like to. So I think maybe I'm just going to accept that I'm probably not going to be keeping up with that until the Les Miserables read-along is over by the end of March, or maybe more realistically until Jen the Librarian's Thomas Hardy read-along is over in July. So I think maybe I will be more dedicated to Roy's neglected Victorian Bestsellers project in the second half of the year, which is absolutely fine. I do highly recommend the neglected Victorian Bestsellers project run by Roy from Roy Reads Anything because it is really fun, and I do really want to read The Blood of the Vampire because I have been meaning to for ages anyway, but I do think I will probably end up sitting out the next couple and seeing where I get to later on in the year, but we'll see. Talking of Jen the Librarian's Thomas Hardy read-along, I will be reading the Thomas Hardy book for March. I have actually been managing to keep up with the Thomas Hardy read-along so far, and I've been really enjoying rereading all of Thomas Hardy's works in publication order. March's book is The Mayor of Casterbridge, which I have read twice before, I think. Maybe 3 times actually. But I'm really looking forward to reading that because I think The Mayor of Casterbridge is great. The February Thomas Hardy book was one of my least favourite Thomas Hardys, so I'm really looking forward to reading a Thomas Hardy that I love in March. The Mayor of Casterbridge is a really strong, really wonderful novel, and also one that I think like I have found improved for me on a reread as well in the past, so I'm really looking forward to reading that one. I'm going to be listening to the audiobook. The Mayor of Casterbridge, if you don't know, is the story of a man who gets very drunk one day and sells his wife at a country fair, and then many years later, when he has improved his life, this past comes back to haunt him, and it's just really good. It's really, really good. That's probably enough books already to be getting on with in March, but I do have some other things going on to my March TBR. One thing I will definitely be reading in March is the pick for the historical fiction book club that I run over on my Patreon, and that is A Little Trickerie by Rosanna Pike. I have heard very, very good things about this from so many people. I think it was longlisted for the Women's Prize last year, and a lot of people just loved it. And a lot of people who I have similar bookish taste to, so I'm really hopeful that I will like A Little Trickerie. A Little Trickerie is set in 16th century England, and I've just heard that it's very like voicey and fun. I was creating a schedule for the book club, and so I read like the contents page and all the chapter titles, and the chapter titles were quite wild, so I'm quite excited. I've got the audiobook on hold from my library and I'm really looking forward to this one. Are there any other books I would like to read in March? Well, yes, probably. I would really like to read Wonders Never Cease by Lexi Hudson, which I have a proof copy of here. This is coming out in May. I know Lexi in real life. I really like her writing, and this is her debut novel, which is all about 2 ballet dancers who fall in love, but also maybe there's some magical stuff going on, and I just I know I'm really going to enjoy this. So I definitely will read this in March, I think. To be honest, this is probably a higher priority than the books I'm carrying over from February. And then I might start my next Anthony Trollope book after I finish the Landleaguers. I will see. I will at some point in March or April read John Caldigate by Anthony Trollope, which will be the final Anthony Trollope novel that I have. I think it's likely that I will start it in March, but probably at the end of March. And then in terms of other things going on in March, I think I'm going to skip the TBR reading spa this month because I just have more than enough books already on my TBR. But I am going to do the Read Good Challenge prompt for March. The Read Good Challenge is hosted by Ben Reads Good. The Read Good Challenge for March is to read a book that has been turned into an Oscar-nominated film. And conveniently, the film of the musical Les Miserables was nominated for some Oscars, and I know that I will finish off Les Miserables in March, so that works perfectly. Then another sort of literary event happening in March is the Irish Readathon, and I would like to try and sneak in some Irish literature in March, though whether or not I succeed, we'll see. But I do have here this collection of Gothic tales by J. Sheridan Le Fanu. I read one of these back in Victober, and then I just haven't had a chance to read the rest. And J. Sheridan Le Fanu is a 19th century Irish writer, who I really, really like, and I, might pick up the rest of this and finish them in March. And then, of course, there is also the Walter Scott Prize longlist, which was announced in February, and as I said, I'm already reading Eden Glassy, but I would ideally like to read a little bit more from it in March. What exactly I will read from the Walter Scott Prize longlist in March, I don't know. I think The Matchbox Girl by Alice Jolly will probably be one of my first reads because the author very kindly offered to send me a review copy. I also have a library hold on The Sea Scraper by Benjamin Wood, which is very, very short. So if that library hold comes in March, I will read it in March, but I think the hold queue is quite long. But also because it's only like a 5-hour audiobook, I do feel like it's probably an audiobook that will get returned early by people, and maybe the queue will not be as long as the library thinks it is, but we'll see. I also have a hold on Helm by Sarah Hall at the library. Again, whether that comes in March, I don't know. And then I was also thinking I could try and get out from the library Venetian Vespers by John Banville, because John Banville is also an Irish writer, and that would be nice for the Irish Readathon this month. When the Walter Scott Prize longlist was announced, Venetian Vespers was like pretty low down my list. I didn't feel particularly fussed to read it, but a lot of people said that they had really, really liked it, which has made me more intrigued. And a few people talked about it being a bit of a mystery novel, or having like a mystery element, which is something I quite enjoy, so we will see. Basically, I haven't really sorted out my plans for the Walter Scott Prize longlist reading, but I will try and read some books from the Walter Scott Prize longlist in March, as well as all the crime books. Am I going to get through many of these books? As I said, in February, I feel like I just haven't spent very much time reading, and it's just been very, very busy. And is March going to be as busy? I don't think so, but I'm not sure. March also has like 3 extra days, so, you know, I could read so many more books in those days. I do feel like whether or not I read a lot in the month does seem to depend quite a lot on whether I manage to like set aside a full day for reading, as I did in January and as I did not do in February. So we will see. Anyway, I feel like I've been rambling for ages and I haven't said very much. This TBR video has mostly just been things carrying over from my February TBR. But, you know, I thought I would stick to my resolution of trying to make a TBR video every month anyway, so I will see how I go. That is all I have to say for now, I think. Do let me know what you are hoping to pick up in March, and if you have heard anything about the books I've mentioned today. I'll also leave linked down below my February TBR and also the Walter Scott Prize longlist reaction video I did, because I feel like there were quite a few books I mentioned in passing in this video without telling you what they're about, and I have spoken about those books in other videos. I also wanted to say, actually, while I'm here, before I finish this video, I was so delighted with the response to my last video, my Anthony Trollope video, calling all Anthony Trollope fans. I was so pleased by the comments and also how many people have filled out the Anthony Trollope survey I have put out. I think I already have like 150 something replies, and I was genuinely expecting like maybe 30 overall. So I'm really, really delighted by how many people have responded to the survey and by people's thoughts in the comments. And I'm just feeling very excited about finishing all the works of Anthony Trollope and making a lot of videos about his books, even if I'm not absolutely loving the Landleaguers so far. But, you know, I have very high hopes for John Caldigate, and I kind of wish I'd saved Marion Fate till last, which was my most recent Anthony Trollope book and was just amazing. But, you know, It's fine. Maybe the Land Eagles will be incredible. I'm only 100 pages in. I'm going to stop now because I've been rambling for ages. But thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.